told your friend you're not okay.
K-pop news. Have you heard the sudden news about BTS's concert in Tampa? There was one unexpected moment that left tens of thousands of ARMY speechless, in tears, and simultaneously realizing that they were witnessing history being born right before their eyes. That night, Tampa felt different from the moment the fans first stepped into the stadium. The warm beach air mingled with a gentle breeze, bringing a kind of serenity that contrasted sharply with the immense energy slowly building from every corner of Raymond James Stadium. Purple lights flooded every row of seats. Light sticks glowed softly, twinkling like thousands of stars moving in unison in a single rhythm. From a distance, the stadium looked like a pulsating galaxy. Amidst the spectacle, ARMY's cheers formed a relentless wave, seemingly sweeping across the space. When the music first hit, the energy exploded without compromise. One song, two songs, three songs, until the world felt like nothing but light, sound, and the seven figures standing on stage, giving their all, as they always do. But what no one realized was that the night was waiting for a specific moment, a moment that would transform it from just another concert into something much more profound. It all began as the lights slowly dimmed. ARMY expected the usual VCR or stage transition, but the screen suddenly displayed something different, something they never imagined would happen in the middle of a BTS concert. An announcement came. The mayor of Tampa was on the scene. Silence crept in, cutting through the clamor that had filled the air just seconds before. No one really knew what he was going to say, but all eyes were fixed on the screen, all attention focused on one point. As the mayor's voice began to ring, the tempo of the night changed. He wasn't just delivering a formal welcome like most officials. His tone was different. He spoke about the impact BTS's presence had on the city of Tampa, how this concert had brought joy, global attention, and cultural value beyond anything they had anticipated. The audience listened quietly, but everything changed the second one name was mentioned. Taehyung. It was as if the entire stadium stopped breathing. A spontaneous cheer erupted, uncontrollable. Some ARMY covered their mouths in shock. Others burst into tears before the mayor could even finish. And when he began speaking again, the atmosphere was more emotional than anyone could have imagined. He wasn't just complimenting. He wasn't just commenting. He spoke like a fan who had followed Taehyung's journey for a long time. He called Taehyung a figure with an inimitable aura, a charisma that extended far beyond the stage, someone whose presence could be felt even before he struck a note. He praised the way Taehyung lived in every performance, not just singing, not just dancing, but bringing the emotion to every song. And the line that most sent ARMY into meltdown was his confession that he idolized Taehyung. It was a simple sentence, but when uttered by a city leader in the middle of an international concert, its impact was immeasurable. Tens of thousands of ARMY transformed into a sea of emotions that were hard to describe. Some hugged each other in tears. Some stared at the stage with teary eyes. Others covered their faces, unable to believe this moment was real. Because this wasn't just praise. It was a recognition of the artist's long journey from humble beginnings to become one of the world's most influential names. And when the camera focused on Taehyung, the stadium erupted once again. His expression was soft, a little surprised, a little embarrassed, but full of gratitude. There was a small smile so genuine that it felt like millions of hearts were being squeezed and embraced at the same time. The other members looked at him with proud smiles, as if silently saying, "You deserve it." In an instant, the ARMY screams filled the entire space. Taehyung, Taehyung, Taehyung. Their voices echoed so powerfully that it felt like the stadium's very heart was beating in unison. They weren't just cheering. They were celebrating. They were honoring. They were showing how much love they had held for him. After the mayor concluded his message, with a wish that Taehyung would continue to shine and spread kindness throughout the world, the concert continued. But something was different. The energy had changed. The emotions were deeper. And Taehyung, he was shining in a way he had never seen before. Every step he took radiated pride. Every look he gave carried a meaning hard to describe. ARMY felt it. And as the concert continued with renewed energy, something interesting began to be felt in the audience. It was as if the mayor's moment of recognition had not only affected Taehyung and the members, but also changed the way ARMY viewed the entire evening. There was a kind of emotional resonance that continued to swirl, not fading even after the music had resumed. Every cheer sounded more lively. Every sing-along felt more powerful, and even Taehyung's slightest movement was met with a sea of screams that were even more resounding than before. Midway through the next song, the stage camera returned to Taehyung's face from a different angle. There was no dialogue, no special interaction, just a silent close-up that captured his slightly teary eyes, and ARMY erupted. Some beat their chests, saying, "Don't cry," even though they were already crying. Others raised their light sticks higher as if to say they were always there, even when he wasn't looking directly at them. It didn't stop there. After a few songs, RM made a small comment, almost spontaneously unplanned. He didn't mention the mayor directly, but his tone was soft and meaningful. He said that the night felt warmer, closer, more human, and everyone knew his words were directed at Taehyung. The other members nodded slowly, offering small gestures of support that only those who have followed BTS for a long time can understand. Jungkook patted Taehyung on the back. Jimin smiled as he stared at him for a long time, and Jin even gave a playful thumbs up, lightening the atmosphere, yet still appreciative. But the most emotional moment came as the stage for the ballad began. The stadium lights turned a softer, silvery purple, and the night air began to feel cooler. The song began with a long instrumental intro, and for those few seconds, the camera focused on Taehyung again, this time in a still pose, his head slightly bowed, his fingers lightly tapping on the microphone. And when he opened his eyes to sing the first verse, the stadium's noise suddenly faded away, despite the noise it had previously had. It was as if the entire ARMY had deliberately kept their voices down, giving Taehyung the space to express his feelings without interruption. Taehyung's voice that night was different. There was a slight tremor that usually didn't exist. There was a more naked honesty. It was as if everything that had preceded him, the mayor's words, the ARMY's cheers, the members' support, came together and poured out through every note he sang. Even some of the on-site staff admitted that this was one of Taehyung's most emotionally moving live vocals of the entire tour. And as expected, the ARMY couldn't contain themselves. They sang the chorus together, but at a controlled, soft volume, like a huge whisper that enveloped the entire stadium. From the stage, the members could see thousands of fans crying, holding hands, and some hugging people they didn't even know, simply because they felt the same thing. Pride in a man who had worked hard his entire life. When the song ended, Taehyung slowly raised the microphone, as if he wanted to say something. And while he's notorious for rarely speaking at concerts, that night he tried. His voice cracked at the beginning, prompting the stadium to erupt with roars of support. But he continued, saying that he was incredibly grateful, that he never expected the night to be this special, and that he felt like he'd received a huge gift he never asked for. That brief greeting was enough to shatter ARMY's defenses. Once again, cheers filled the air, but this time it wasn't just any cheer. It was a cheer filled with pride, love, and a sense of connection that's rare even at the biggest concerts. And from that moment on, the concert seemed to enter a new phase. The energy was different, the flow changed. The members performed with passion as if a new fuel had ignited within them, while ARMY supported them with an intensity that surpassed even the previous performance. Taehyung looked more confident, more composed, and more radiant than at the beginning of the concert. Every smile was warmer, every movement more alive, and every look in his eyes carried a gratitude that was hard to describe. As the concert drew to a close, BTS delivered a closing performance that sent the entire stadium into a frenzy. And when they finally stood in a line to say their final goodbyes, Taehyung stood in the center, gazing out across the stadium with a gaze that was hard to forget. There was no dialogue, no lengthy speeches, just eyes filled with gratitude and love.